it to the leaders, the way I invest is just products I use.
Oh,
because that's it.
I have so many things
if it's
I wanna
like
talk
if
to
it's
you
just
about.
products I use, it's like I tend to use the products I like that work well. So it's like Amazon, Disney. I mean, Apple, Tesla. It's like I go to
Fried
these
chicken.
things, son. Fucking if you had Popeye stock.
No,
but I'm
you're
just
right.
saying
Yeah.
that's just how, and I feel comfortable because I hate the market. This shit feels like gambling.
Yep.
But it's like if I'm gonna dabble in it, at least let me just do it with companies I feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And it's probably
That
not
you're
the way
already
you make
supporting.
the most money, but I'm already invested.
Dude, I learned something when I was on vacation that's like, it's so wildly unfair. But it's wildly unfair, but I saw kind of like how the world works, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't usually go to like a fancy resort or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I was at this thing, and again, I spoke to very few people. But what's interesting at these resorts is like the people that end up going there usually have some money, right?
Yeah.
And they have some money either because it was handed down or because they made it and they were themselves successful.
Mm-hmm.
And when you sit down with these people who have made it and they're successful, they share so much like information, like valuable, cool information with you, just because that's what you're talking about and you're like curious, you're going to talk to them. And I can't imagine how many deals have been made, new partnerships have been built, new investment ideas have been put together simply from being in a circle of people who are also successful.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see this one class of people continue to go up and separate itself from poor people, not because they hate poor people, but simply because they're not having the same interactions in this like quote unquote safe space where everybody must kind of be something. You know how like a fraternity party between sorority and fraternity, like the girls at the party know, all right, the guys are in Chi Psi, so they can't be that bad. Yeah. And the guys know, the girls are in DG, so they can't be. So everybody kind of feels more comfortable talking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, as valuable as it is having these conversations and just like learning this stuff, I also am like, oh man, it's so unfair that
That's what makes podcasts amazing. Like the Joe Rogan podcast, Dak Shepard, experts on experts. These are, you're just bringing on brilliant people and then they're just talking,
These
they're just
are the
sharing information back and
conversations that
forth.
happen at country clubs for years. And for the first time in history, the average person like us is able to listen in on like a fucking super scientist.
Never been accessible to us because the country club isn't accessible to us.
Wow. You had to literally go to school to have access to some of these brilliant people.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was talking to this one guy and he's invested in a genome research.
Yeah.
And what they've found, what they can do now, you know that they can remove the genome? No, they can remove the part of your DNA that gives you sickle cell.
Word?
For black people, they can go in there and change that piece of DNA.
There's I think it's
sorry
called...
to interrupt. There's a company called CRISPR, right?
That's the one I was going to say,
Yeah. And what there is there's this thing, I'm going to learn a little bit more and try to invest in it, but it's basically a fund that invests in like the top 15 of these genome companies. So 2 or 3 of them will end up popping and then you do well. But what he was breaking down to me is they can go in and fix impurities in our DNA.
Yeah.
So for example, let's say you have some crippling illness like ALS or something like that. They can go into your DNA and replace that part.
Yep.
That's what they're working on right now. They can't do it through and through. And also there's ethical problems, which is like, I want my kid to be this tall.
Do whatever we want.
Rich people get to change all their DNA.
Yes. So the bad part is rich people get to change all their DNA and increase that gap. But the good part is my dad, who's got fucking Alzheimer's, if he lasts another 6 to 10 years, they might be able to fucking go in there and fix that part of his DNA.
Yeah. I think
I couldn't believe it,
the
bro.
Human Genome Project is one of the big ones that does it.
Yeah.
But then in Harari's book, he talks about there's a what he calls like a DNA artist or some shit.
Yep.
Is this Brazilian dude that took a rabbit and swapped out one of the strands of the DNA to make it glow under ultraviolet light. And so like in any part of nature, like being able to glow at night is like the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
Like if you're like a land creature or whatever.
Yeah.
But he was able to swap this piece of the rabbit with
So
like
it didn't glow.
Yeah, no, so it did.
So it did.
So and he was taking like what do they call it? Not chlorophyll, but like whatever the
Cetaphil.
yeah, Cetaphil. No, but like whatever like the
Yes.
jellyfish in the ocean use.
Yeah.
Bioluminescence.
Yep.
He took that gene, put it in a rabbit, and then it glowed green. And so he was actually able to like alter the visual appearance of this rabbit. And he was like, we could do it to people, we could do it to anything.
Yeah.
And
But
that was in like
think about
2004.
That's and so here's the thing. obviously there's ethical concerns, and we don't know what the long-term effects will be. But the guy said to me, this guy he was an eye doctor, but he also invested in these companies, and that was his big thing there. And I'd only get to have this conversation because we're both sitting at the same snorkeling thing, right?
Yeah.
I can help you not drown.
Yeah.
You can have gills.
I went to, I literally, he's telling me, he's like, in the next 10 years, we should be able to increase life expectancy to 150 years if you can make it the next 10. Mm-hmm. Now, again, who knows? Yeah. Akaash said we will have flying cars in 3 years. We're like, there's no fucking way we're going to have it. Again. But
same book talked about all this stuff, actually.
Guy's a quack. This guy knows not. Yeah. Guy knows not.
Fucking dunce over here, bro.
Idiot. But it was a pretty cool thing, and maybe I have false hope, obviously, because I have, people in my life affected by illness that like is just gonna eventually kill them, right? It's just what it is, or they end up dying. But I mean, imagine in our fucking lifetime. Mm-hmm. I think it's
gonna be nuts.
Yeah, that's
this is right here. If it's not perfect, but they're there, how long till they're there? And then when that's there, babies are whatever you want them to be within 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. It's like fucking nose jobs. Like you didn't see those back in the day, and then everybody started doing it.
Yeah. Now there's a like kind of a weird like ethical dilemma that comes with it. Not even like ethical, but like a social like implication that comes with it.
Yep.
So let's say they're able to increase life expectancy.
Yep.
But they're not able to cure or like prevent like mortality. So you can live to be 150, 200, but you're still susceptible to the same things that an average human is susceptible to. So like if you get in a car accident, you're still just as likely to die.
Yep.
Are people less likely to take risks in their personal life, both like financially, both literally with like their bodies? Like, are people less, are they more risk averse?
Explain the argument for why they are. Because I think conventionalism will be like, well, what would the difference be?
Mm-hmm. I think what he's trying to say is the saying life is short, whatever, do this. That's not true anymore. Life is long as fuck.
It's twice as long as it used to be.
Right. I guess what I would say to that is that it's already long.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
When we were maybe living 40 years, maybe it was a little bit more gung-ho and fuck it, I'll just take this sword and I'll run into this group of people. What?
To his point, life expectancy has increased from like fucking 25 to 75.
Yep.
But that didn't happen within our lifetime. That happened over centuries.
Yep.
This could happen within 10 years. So we go from living to 75 to 150. Well, fuck. This is a different way to look at life.
To bring this conversation full circle from the beginning of the podcast, what I was feeling was avoiding risk.
Yeah.
My whole life I've been risky. It's been very beneficial to me.
Yeah.
But I got to a point where I was like, well, this is pretty nice. Like, I got people I care about and I love, and people that I'm responsible for. It's selfish of me to risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Am I being selfish? Mm-hmm. Maybe you're right.
Yeah. Like you're 17, you have like no bills, like no rent, no kids. Like, yeah, I'll go do whatever. I'll go skydive, rock climb. Like, I'll be drunk and jump on this train as it's passing by. You don't give a shit. But then as soon as you have life and all of a sudden now you're 50 and you're like, yo, I have 100 more years I can live. Like if you're 50 and you're like, yo, I might die when I'm 70. I might die when I'm 75. Like I gotta have a whatever.
I can't go skiing until I'm 90.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
I can't. Yeah, I'll do that when I'm 100.
Yeah. Then you still have 50 years on top of that.
I still think that boredom will overtake most people, and I think they'll go after these certain things just to create some sort of like distraction.
But is the loss greater considering, like if someone dies when they're 70, we go, yeah, he lived a good life. You die when you're 70 in 10 years, you go, wow, that's so sad.
That will change, but I don't think our taking risks will change. I think taking risks will change dependent on the success in your life, but I do think the sadness at a lost life will be dependent on the percentage of his life that could be lived.
Right.
Just like it is now. A 30-year-old dies, we go, oh my God, he was so young. I would love for us to get to a point where if a 100-year-old person dies, we go,
damn, that's
it. So much life to live.
95 years old, the guy didn't even get to 100, man. He didn't get to see his 100th birthday.
Wow.
Do you guys want to live that long, though?
If life is good, if you're switching out my parts.
But if you're... Oh, okay, yeah.
Go for the cyborg?
Let's go, bro.
Everything else, okay.
I want to look like one of them Cuban cars. You know when you go to Havana and the outside look fire, but the inside's held with duct tape? Do me like that, bro.
Swap